Welcome to School Readiness Conversations. In this program, we unpack ECD in Zimbabwe. Where are we? Where have we been? And where are we going? We look at the policy environment. We look at the investment in ECD. We look at the practice and availability of the services, the importance of early childhood development. I am Dixon Maradze, your host. Joining me here is Mr. Stole and Mrs. Musendo. Welcome to the program, Mr. Stole. Welcome, Mrs. Musendo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our topic today is cognitive skills and character skills building at early childhood level. Mr. Stole, is that possible? Where do we start?
We must remember that ECD children are in their formative years. So actually this is an
That's
opportunity for us to lay the foundation. And then we will also look at the period spanned by ECD. We would see that actually this socialization starts before they come to school. That's when they are
Still at home.
Yes. So the family is the first socializing agent. And then they come to school, and from school they also go back again to school, but they are also within the community. So this is ongoing socialization, so I would say we start from there and continues from there.
So this is a window of opportunity where it is still very possible and green for us to develop the cognitive and character skills at that very grassroots level. Cognitive skills, Mr. Musendo. Which ones are these? What are we developing when we develop cognitive skills?
Thank you. Cognitive skills. These are the thinking skills that actually help the brain to learn, to read. And when we talk of developing...
So we can develop thinking.
Oh, yes. We can develop thinking, yes. So when we talk of developing the child to have these cognitive skills, we are actually helping the child to have the knowledge and to know the process on how to develop skills like problem solving, analytic thinking, critical thinking.
These are big words that we are having. Critical thinking, problem solving. You are telling us here that we have got that opportunity to start developing it at early childhood development level. Mr. Stoll.
At that stage, your children are trying to make sense of the world around them, and they understand why things are the way they are and that thing. So they're engaging their brain then to make sense of that world. So all this thinking which is coming from, they're processing this information in their minds.
Information processing, that is another cognitive skill. Now, when a child is in the home as a parent, what sort of activities do I engage in, even knowing or unknowingly, but which develop cognitive skills?
Social interaction with your child.
Very important.
You should actually have time with your kids. Listen to them, be attentive to their needs, have time with them, and know their interests, and also engage in some of the activities that these children will be involved in.
So being there for the children, responding to their questions, they ask questions, responding to their needs even before they start communicating in language. That is cognitive development. Mr. Stolle, let me switch to character development. Yes, as we have agreed, it starts from that level of the home. School readiness, before they even get into school, but getting them ready to school. Now, what sort of skills develop character before children get into school?
I'll start by saying, generally children are egocentric, so we need now to make them outgrow that and become more socialized beings. And this involves quite a number of skills. The first one is empathy, I would say. They need now to not just see things for themselves, but to also think how other people would feel when they've acted in a particular way. So empathizing is one other skill which they need. We are looking here at also building certain values here, which they need to know, what are these values which we are laying down foundation for, which they need to know, like taking. They need to know that it's not just them all the time, but they should also do certain things and give other people, children.
And this can be done well in the home.
In the home.
When I'm talking, you wait, right? But we also want to teach skills such as assertiveness, teaching our children to speak. Because children have always been known. I remember there's a friend of mine who said, my father used to say, children are not for listening to, but they are for seeing, believing that children should not speak. This is a character that we want to develop amongst our children at early childhood development for them to be assertive. Ms. Simpson, women should not talk, girls should not talk. What's your take?
Well, I tend to differ on that one because like what you said, you asked about character skills. Because basically when you're looking at character skills, we are looking at the social and emotional development of the child. The way that child finds a space in a given society. So there are many ways that in a society we should exhibit ourselves. These skills, they also need to be developed even from the family, whereby every child has a need. And by so, each time a child has a need, the way the parents or the caregiver respond to the child's needs, by so doing, you're actually what? Responding.
So, this character development and the cognitive development, well, we've agreed we are starting from the home. That involves the parents. That involves the peers in that home. It involves the children's interaction with the environment in which they are brought up. Now we go into ECDA and ECDB in our schools here in Zimbabwe. How do you see the development of character and cognitive skills?
This is exhibited through the activities that they do in a learning environment. You know, the teachers at the schools, or now these days we call them facilitators, they actually have to prepare an environment whereby the children explore and come up with their learning abilities through the given prepared environment. And so by so doing, children will actually, during their play time, they interact with their peers, they explore new things through the play, and this is exhibited through the learning centers which are actually exhibited in the classrooms.
Their favorite way of learning, their brain's favorite way of learning is play.
Yes.
You touching on a basic and a principle which is at the center of early childhood development education. Now that we have agreed, we really need to ensure that our children at this level, they need to interact with a positive environment which stimulates the development of the brain, which stimulates their thinking, and it also stimulates the way that they acquire character, the skills of survival and thriving later in life. Welcome back to School Readiness Conversations. We ended up rounding off and touching a very central activity in the development of cognitive skills and character skills, and that is play. We mentioned that play is their brain's favorite way of learning. Now, it speaks now into issues to do with the character of the children that we have. Can we moderate, can we develop the character of every child into the desired constructs that society benefits from, that the nation benefits from?
People are very different. You know, some children, they've got some physical disabilities. So we cannot say we can mold every child to a desired character trait, depending with their physical needs.
Are you saying to a certain level, we can't bring them to the same level, or you are saying there are some we can't?
Yes,
develop?
There are some we can't develop, but there are some we can.
Your point coming from what we can do through play to develop the character of our children. And you are trying to bring that children are not the same, and where we are taking them is not the same, because children have got unique characters, they operate at unique levels. Is that so?
Yes.
So there is what we can do through play to develop character. Is that so? Mr. Stoll?
That is quite correct. I think the first thing we should know is that every child has potential, but however, the extent to which that potential is realized will vary because children are individuals. Their contexts also vary from place to place, so that would be different. But all of them, we can, to an extent, develop certain characteristics which are desirable. Now, using play, yes, play, we use it different ways to build those ones now.
So there is a group that has always been identified negatively, the delinquent child. We've heard about this, or those children with what can be recognized as untoward behavior. But what we are agreeing at is there is a starting level, which is early childhood development, where we've got to start developing their character. Would we then say we can get rid of what we call the delinquent child, or those with untoward behavior? Can we get rid of them?
We should also consider that there are many factors that actually affect this development of character. We don't usually just look at the facilitator in the classroom or even the parents at home. You should also bear in mind that we have the society. There is the social media, the environment, what the child is being also exposed to. All those things, they also matter into the development of the character of the child.
So we are coming again to put our emphasis and our money on the issue of the environment in which we are rearing our children.
Yes.
It matters. But many a time, children get toxicity from that same environment. Children get toxicity in the same families that we are tasking with developing cognitive skills and character building. We are supposed to start not only from the child. It means we also have to start from the parent, from the caregiver, from the environment, moving into the school.
That's very true, because considering even the school, even from the home, remember the facilitators or the teachers, they are always on stage. These teachers or facilitators, they act as role models to these young ones.
We should always walk the talk. Walk the talk. Okay, Mr. Stolle. Now, schools and family have a relationship that they have got to maintain if we have got to see or optimize the benefits of the relationship in terms of cognitive development and character building. But there is a tendency whereby families or parents seem to leave everything to the school. The cognitive development and the character development is taenzwa kuti ndo zvawakadzidziswa naticha vako here. What's your take?
I think when we say that we miss this synergy which should exist between the home and the school, that's why in ECD, parental involvement in ECD is very strong. It is very encouraged strongly, because the children come from the home, then they come maybe 5 hours at school, then they go back again to their families. So they should get the strong collaboration between the family and the home, so that we help to develop the character of this child and the skills that we need. And so it's an issue which needs addressed and which should be strengthened when we are talking about quality ECD, that is strong engagement in the ECD of the family and the school.
So you look at it as a shared responsibility, between the school and the parent. Hapana kuti kana ndakuendesa kuchikoro ndizvozvo. Mindset.
That's very true. Actually, school is home away from.
I like that. School is home away from home. The
yes.
teacher acts in loco parentis.
Yes.
Go on. It's home from home. So, but we can't say then home is also school away from school. But it is in one way or another.
Yes.
And those two environments have got to collaborate each other.
It's true.
in a way that develops the cognitive skills that we are desirous to see, and also the character building that we are desirous to see. Mrs. Sole, your last word?
So I would simply say it's strong reinforcement. The home reinforcing what is learned at ECD, and ECD also reinforcing the positive things that have been learned from the home.
Thank you very much. The term reinforcement really summarizes what we are supposed to do. Parents, when they are at home, they are at school in one way or another, teaching cognitive skills, they are teaching character building. When children go into ECDA and ECDB, they carry from home what has been input into them into the school. So these two environments become two variables that we've got to work on to develop the characters and to develop the cognitive skills that we want to see. Problem solvers, that's the product we want. Innovative students, future-proof students. It starts from the home, it goes into school. We continue to invest in early childhood development because early years matters. Welcome back to this final segment. And Ms. Msendo, you spoke about teacher-pupil ratio before. And the ideals of the early learning policy, though it is still a draft, is a ratio of 1 teacher to 20 students,
Yes.
ECDA and ECDB.
Yes.
What's your take?
If we really want to implement or to develop good cognitive and character skills in our little ones, I feel we need to reduce our ratio of 1:20. Or maybe we can still maintain that, but with the help of a qualified assistant teacher, so that at least we'll be able to manage and develop fully to get the required results from our children.
So you are talking of a qualified teacher and a qualified assistant teacher. Doesn't that make 2 qualified teachers for those 20 students? Can you distinguish between the qualified assistant and the qualified teacher?
Well, there's no difference because both are qualified. But what
Their training may be different.
Not really, but maybe they differ in terms of experience. Maybe one is more experienced in the teaching field and the other one is just fresh from the college. But the reason being that we don't want to unteach. You know, it's very difficult to unteach something that has been wrongly taught, passed to a child. So it's better to have a qualified person who knows exactly the right skills
That are supposed to be developed.
Yes, to a given child.
Mr. Sol, I want us to take it further. We have had the situation of inclusive settings where we have got people asking the question, what is the proper teacher-pupil ratio in an inclusive setup where I have children with hearing impairment and probably another child with visual impairment learning with those without visual and hearing impairment, and we are speaking teacher-pupil ratio in terms of early childhood development. What do you think?
I think this is one of the areas that are omitted in the early learning policy.
Omitted means it's not there.
It's not here. They've not really said when they're looking at the teacher-pupil ratio that this will be the ratio in a mixed class in terms of mixed abilities, in a mixed also in terms of whether they're children with diverse disabilities. This is not clear. So that's a challenge which we have in this when we're trying to have inclusive classrooms now, classes where we have got all these people in one class now, where initially it was segregated, where we had schools for people with disabilities.
So when we want to speak of quality, when we want to speak of actual and measurable progress, we need to have an inclusive teacher-pupil ratio, which for now, Mr. Stoll, you are not seeing in the draft early learning policy.
Exactly.
That's a point for advocates, and we will be coming back to talk about it when we have it. But what is the effect, what is the impact of a higher teacher-pupil ratio as compared to a low teacher-pupil ratio at ECD level, ECDA and ECDB, in terms of cognitive skills development and character skills development?
The quality of learning all depends on the quality of interactions. The interactions that take place between
Quality of learning
Yes.
and the quality of interactions.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So in that case, then, if the class is larger or there are more pupils to a teacher, the teacher is not able now to observe each child, and then when they observe, then they promote learning then through scaffolding or asking the relevant questions which will stimulate learning. So that it creates a challenge then, because if the teacher is overwhelmed by the class size, then there is no space for that individual attention. So they lose out on learning.
So on the basic, interactions are key and central to the development of both constructs that we are looking at, the cognitive skills and the character development skills, which means there are certain interactions which promote cognitive skills development and certain interactions which also promote character skills development. And if they are not there, then we will not be able to see those desired citizens that should be developed from the grassroots. Now, cognitive and character skills development, why are they so important? How do they link to the development of the country as a whole?
It's very important, considering that these children are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. We actually need to nurture the character traits which are actually good and productive and beneficial to the society. We need leaders that are courageous, leaders that are honest, leaders that are industrious, leaders that actually
That have integrity.
Yes, all that. So it's very important actually.
Thank you very much for mentioning those qualities, those traits. We are always looking for them in interviews. When people come and you want to put a person to an important task, you want to identify those traits and characteristics. But we are at the level where we have to develop them before we ask for them. We cannot leave this to chance. And Mr. Stolle, now we are saying there are social benefits to the nation when we develop cognition, when we develop character skills. But there are also private benefits to the individual for their success. How central are these two skills, the cognitive and the skills development, to the success of an individual?
They say no man is an island, but you are part of the man. So individual, then we have to exist in relationship to other people. That's very important for success in life and functioning. So in this case, then we find that the cognitive and the social skills we're talking about here, they will enable this to build connections, to relate to other people for their well-being and fulfillment as a human being. It's very important, but also they will also add value maybe to other people also, who also value them and also reciprocate in a certain way. So these skills then are very critical.
Critical and central.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So what we are agreeing here is the early years matter. And this conversation that we are having has to continue to bring awareness on the importance of investing into what we want to see later in life. We have to invest at the foundational level, which is early childhood development. So the skills of cognition, character development cannot be left to chance. We need to work on the environment in which our children grow. The interactions that they have with the environment, the interactions that they have with their teachers, the interactions that they have in the families form an integral part of what they become in terms of cognitive development and character development. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Ms. Msendo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stolle. The conversation was very fruitful. Join us and continue to hear more on Twitter. #School Readiness Conversations. #Early Years Matters. I'm Dixon Marate, your host.
you.